Hi, I'm Tom Rowlett from Las Vegas, and I'm sitting in my Stutz Bearcat. This car is in the style of 1914, and in 1914 a Bearcat was like a 427 Cobra of its time. It would do over 100 miles an hour. This car was actually built in 1972 as a fully assembled car. It's not a kit car. 12 of these were built as a marketing test to determine if they could be sold for a profit. Unfortunately, the company who built these just tried too darn hard. Too much brass, too much custom work. They were $2,200 or $2,300 when a new Chevy was $2,800 at the time. The car is built on an International Scout chassis. It uses the International half V8, which is their International's 304 V8 without the driver's side cylinder bank. All the mechanical parts are International Scout, so I can keep it running by buying my parts at Rock Auto. But I have all the fun of 1914 and none of the pain. I bought it from the family of the company who originally built these cars. I bought it from the son of the owner. Unfortunately, his children and his children's children didn't really want it anymore. They had pretty much let it go, and I had to replace every piece of rubber on the car, carburetor, brake system, fuel system. Pretty much all of that had to be replaced. But the body parts and frame and all chassis were in excellent condition. And so we got it back on the road in about 6 months. I've had it about a little over 3 years now. And like I say, driving this is like driving 110 years ago. And some key features are, of course, its monocle windshield. And the reason it has that little bitty windshield is because there wasn't any safety glass in 1914. And as I said, a Bearcat in 1914 would do over 100 miles an hour. That's 10 years after horse and buggies when you think about it. And so another challenge is I'm 6'3". This car was built for somebody not quite my size, so I had to do some things like raise the seats and move them back and raise the steering column. I had to put a little kink in the gear shift so it would clear my knee when I shift into first gear. It took me about 4 months to get it ready. One of the features I like about it is the trunk, and that's why car trunks are called trunks, is because until about 1930 there was just a rack on the back of a car, and people would travel with railroad trunks, and they would get to the hotel, the bell people would take the railroad trunk inside, set it up, and go. So a big question that I always ask folks is why is a car trunk called a trunk? And I always point them to the back of the car, because up until 1930, cars just had a rack on the back of the car, and people traveled using railroad trunks. So there would just be a rack, and people would take their railroad trunk, put it on. When they got to the hotel, the bell people would take it in, set it up in their room, and good to go. So I added a trunk to this car. Unfortunately, I couldn't find an antique one that exactly fit this space, so I ended up having to build a trunk. And it carries all my junk for car shows and whatnot, but it's actually pretty simple. This is lawn chair furniture fabric, ladies' belts, brass bits from Amazon, and some poplar and birch from Home Depot. And my grandson watched me build it for about 4 weeks, and he said, "Grandpa, it's just a box," but he liked it when it was done. All right, the wheels on this car are pretty special. Back in the day, these would have been wood spoke wheels. The company who built this car actually duplicated the wood spoke look in a mag wheel, and then of course they added the custom brass center. I can't imagine what that cost to cast. They weigh about 2 pounds. But that's what I meant about trying too hard to build this car, is they just went all out to really make it look like 1914, and it has surprised a lot of people who claim to be car experts that it isn't in fact a 1914. One of the interesting features that we enjoy about this car is because of what it is, we can let people sit in it for pictures. We always get lots and lots of people who sit in it for pictures, and one of the rules, if you sit in my car, you gotta honk the horn. This car is equipped with a toolbox, just as it would have been in 1914, because in 1914 whether you were going to break down, it wasn't a question, it was when. And so the driver always had to carry enough tools to fix his car on the road. And a chauffeur's job was not to drive the car, it was to get the occupants to their destination. That meant he had to be a mechanic, had to be a parts finder, had to be a fuel finder. Driving was actually the easiest part of that whole operation. Although driving a car in 1914 was pretty tricky, especially in the wintertime. In 1914, battery cases were made of wood, and you would have to actually take them in at night because they would freeze. You would have to drain all the water out of the cooling system because there wasn't any antifreeze. And so starting the car on a cold morning, you started by heating pots of water up on the stove, getting it hot enough so that you could pour it into the engine without freezing. While they were heating up, you'd bring your battery out, reconnect it, pour in your hot water, hope it started, and then drove wherever you're going to go and never shut it off until you got back home. I have 2 grandsons, and they both checked the box. But they said, I want that car, Grandpa. So hopefully it ends up with one of my grandsons. And I have a pink and black 1955 Ford Skyliner with the glass roof. And hopefully one of them gets one car and one of them gets the other car. So because of this uniqueness, I get offers to buy it about every car show. Unfortunately, there's 2 people ahead that have higher priorities. So, okay. The fun factor driving this car is about a 12 on a scale of 1 to 10. You're never going to see another one coming at you on the road. I get honked at. People roll down windows and say, what the heck is that? A gas station stops are usually about 20 minutes to a half hour because people walk up and say, what the heck is that? And one of the things we enjoy most about the car is letting people sit in it for pictures. Kids of all ages, from 8 to 80, have sat in the car. We even let them put their pets in here. I have a great picture of 2 German Shepherds sitting in this car, and we have a big German Shepherd at home. So he was a little jealous of that. Yeah, I mean, owning it, bring it to a car show, talking about it. Pretty much no car at a car show draws more attention than this one.